Hello, I'm here today to show you how to turn basically this Nerf Vulcan into my chainsaw that I basically custom made. This isn't going to be an in-depth thing. This is basically just a little thing a number of people have asked me about. I'm not good at in-depth, so it's just going to be a basic overview of how to do it. Basically, first off, you're going to need cardboard. This is what I used. I had several large pieces of cardboard, a lot of hot glue and super glue. I used a Dremel tool and basically a hacksaw. That foam, that kind of what's it called? That kind of foam you use where you spray it, it swells up and then hardens. Cutting board. I used a little tiny, craft wire, that very thin wire, and then a bike chain, along with these little teeth right here, are actually these weird little screws. They were in two different sizes, the large and the small size. But now basically we're going to start with the basic body. See, can I adjust this a little? Okay, the body, basically. Now, as you can see, they're a little bit different. And the first thing you want to do, first thing I did, was I took my Dremel tool and I cut right about here. Sorry, right about here, that line. What's happening when I turn this off? That's pretty good. I cut with the Dremel tool right about here. Because a chainsaw doesn't have some chainsaws can, but I wanted the hold up here. So what I ended up doing was cutting this off and then flipping it. As you can see here. See, that's where it was. I just cut it and flipped it, then hot glued it. This trigger does not move. You don't really want it to. And that was for that. Now, as you can also see, I then took my Dremel tool and cut off these right here. This is metal. It was very annoying. But I was able to get through to that and cut it off and then just slide it right out. Now, these gaps right here, these were a simple fix. I ended up hot gluing this part shut and taking square little pieces of cardboard that I cut out and hot gluing them there. Well, on one side. As you can see. Actually, I did do it on both sides, as you can see here. This is just cardboard. On the other side, I did the exact same thing, but then I also bought the replacement little pull crank for actual chainsaw. Now, this I found on Amazon for, I think, under 20 bucks. And just hot glued that on. Luckily, it winds by itself. Now, onto the actual arm. Basically, just cut this off right where the block part begins. And what I ended up doing, seeing this part right here, it's hollow underneath. So I had to get rid of this whole huge orange bit right here. Kind of hollow it all out. And then I took the cardboard that I had. It's like 3 layers. This is like 3 layers of cardboard along with what I needed structural stability. And I'll explain that in a minute. But basically, I cut it out, and I needed to sand it down because I used scissors, so it wasn't too nice in the beginning. And basically, I cut it out, used the sandpaper to sand it down, and then what you don't see right here, it tapers in, so that I could shove it into the hole I created where the barrel used to be. And it was really wiggly, so what I ended up doing was I got well, I think, as you can see, I didn't cut it all out. See, this is still that plastic on both sides, but I cut a nice line out of it, and what I ended up doing was I shoved the tapered end of the chainsaw arm into here, into that cavity, and then filled it with that foam. It took a while to harden, and that was the annoying thing, but once it did harden, it's not going anywhere anymore. It's going to stay right there. What I ended up doing, sorry, computer's turning off. well, the screens will turn off. But what I also ended up doing was on these little, this little part right here is actually just what originally was. It was just a cutting board that I bent and then hot glued on. I don't know if you can really see it, but okay. And so basically like a little L shape that I ended up gluing on to hold it in place as well. And then what I ended up doing, because the arm is made of cardboard and Gorilla Glue, it's made of like 3 layers of cardboard that I just pounded down. But at the same time, it's still really flimsy. It was really flimsy in the beginning. But I bought these shelf liner things, like the roller things that the shelf rolls out on. I bought 2 of those and cut them in half and then put 2 on each side. They're just hot glued in there, like hot and super glued along here. It doesn't really add, it had a lot more structure, just, I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how much stability it added, but it did feel a lot harder. And my biggest fear was once after creating this, because altogether it took me 5 to 8 hours to put it all together, but it took a lot longer to get all the stuff together. So I was afraid of hitting something and then the arm just go, and it's worthless. So I had to put these on. And then what I did was the bike chain, once again, it fits all the way around and actually a little bit gets stuck into the cavity right here. So I put that all the way around and stuck tiny amounts back in. But what you're going to do, because the bike chain I had was too big, so my dad, luckily, he does a lot of cycling, and he had the removal thing that you can remove links from this. You'll probably need that because there wasn't a lot of room in here left. And then it may not look really pretty. Once again, light. You can see all the globbing and stuff. Yeah, no, that's hot glue that I just had to keep putting on and on, because originally I tried using the cutting board again for the teeth, and they were really flimsy, and because this leans down a little, they were crushing it and bending the teeth, and I thought that was horrible. So I eventually went to my hardware store and found these little guys. They are plastic, and I would just cut them off, most of them about that size, maybe a few a little more higher, with I would use wire cutters, and then I would just crimp this. I would have to keep hitting the microphone. I had to pinch this end down, the vat end, and then basically stick it in between the links, in the gap in the links. And that took a lot of hot glue, all this. So what I ended up doing was just going over several coats of red, bright red paint, and what was it? Bright red paint and fake blood, and just kept going it over and over again. So yes, as you see, it eventually built up to like this gunk, like actual viscera and stuff looking. And honestly, another thing I did was this wobbled originally. I super glued this down so it doesn't. And honestly, besides that, I added my little flair. Added these little the wire here. Turn you off again. Added the wire here. I painted it several times because originally the paint didn't stick to the hot glue, so I had to just paint it over and over again. And it all came down to the detail. Like, you don't paint the middle of it. I painted all this. And then basically I ended up painting the whole thing originally gray, because that's kind of what a chainsaw looked like. Or in my mind, a better chainsaw would be all gray. And just had to go over several times again, like this hot glue is not really painted, but at the same time, I don't really care at this point because not a lot of people looked at that. They more so, and then just paint over and over and over again, splatter paint. He took it outside and just started just throwing the paintbrush around just to get all this extra fake blood all over it. But in all honesty, that's pretty much it. Pretty much what you do is cut this off at a diagonal, flip it, re-glue it, cut off the charging handle, pull that out, fill the 2 gaps where the bullet belt goes with cardboard, put the chainsaw pull handle on the side that you use the most, because since I'm holding it like this most of the time, I'm left-handed, so I ended up just using on the left side, cut off the barrel, cut out a place for you to cut out a niche inside and get all the guts out of it, basically. Well, I didn't have to get too much out of it. And cut out the arm, cardboard, 2 to 3 layers, use Gorilla Glue and pound that sucker down. Have it tapered, stick it in the hole. I use foam and use whatever little reinforcements you want. Like I said, I use little cutting board flaps right here. Sand it all down. Bike chain, drawer hole, the drawer liner things for where the drawer slides. I don't know what they're called. Put it on there for reinforcement. Like I said, bike chain on top. Like I said, better to go with something a lot sturdier because this is going to lean. And these, since these are hard plastic made for like getting shoved into walls and stuff, it's not going to bend just from the little weight put on it. And then stick those in between, whatever you want, in between the actual, the bike chain. Hot glue that all in. Paint. Add your own little flair like I did with this chain. I thought of more along the lines of The Evil Within. How they basically had all that barbed wire and stuff. I can't really do barbed wire. But at the same time, the one biggest thing I want to mention to people, people do look at this and can see something that you can hurt someone with. I had to go up to them and specifically show them that, yeah, this actually is somewhat flimsy. It's not flimsy. It's flimsy if you wanted to role play with it, then yeah, it'd be flimsy. If you hit anything with it, it'd probably break. I've not done that. I'm not going to do that. And so, but at the same time, these teeth are hard plastic, like I said, to go into walls. So they do look at it and go, don't swing it at anyone. So yeah, just use common sense with it. And that's basically all I got for you. I may write it all down eventually, but at the same time, I don't really know. I'm still pretty new to the whole cosplay thing. I just make up shit like this and go, hey, that'd be a cool idea. Well, that's all I got for you. If you got any questions, let me know. Bye!